Welcome, everybody, to week number 5 of the NFL season, and that means it's week 5 of R2 F2 Prognostication. As always, I am your host, Robbie Russell, and without further ado, let me get right to the quarterbacks, beginning with Eli Manning as a sleeper for this week. Now, I realize Eli has not had the best start to the season, and honestly, not too many of us would have predicted the 0-4 start for the Giants and the turnovers that Eli has had. He's thrown 9 interceptions, and he's only thrown for 6 touchdowns through 4 games. Nonetheless, the Giants are still within striking distance of the division lead. Now, this Sunday, Eli and the G-Men return home to host a divisional matchup against the Eagles, an Eagles team that Eli torched to end the season last year. In that Week 17 matchup, Eli that is, threw for only 208 yards, but he didn't turn the ball over at all, and he threw for 5 touchdowns. Now, this time around, Eli will be looking for similar success, hopefully to get this first win on the season. And why not? The Eagles, they have the second worst defense against the pass. They've given up 9 passing touchdowns with only 2 interceptions so far created on defense. And over the last 2 seasons, Eli's averaged 259 yards through the air while throwing for 12 scores and throwing only 2 interceptions against that Philly D. Come week 5 end, I like Eli to put top 8 quarterback numbers up in fantasy. Now, along with Eli, other sleepers that are worth a start is Matthew Stafford, Tony Romo, Geno Smith, and Terrell Pryor, providing that Terrell Pryor plays. Now, if he plays, he gets a Chargers defense that has only come up with one interception through 4 games, and they've given up 8 touchdowns through the air. And not only that, they're giving up an average of 311 passing yards per game. I called, Matt Flynn, my gamble player last week. He did okay, but I think it's Terrell Pryor who starts this week. On the flip side, if you own Colin Kaepernick, you may want to leave him on your bench. Cap and company face off against Houston in Candlestick Park on Sunday, and although the Texans seem to be struggling, it's more on the offensive side than the defense. The Texans' defense is really stout against the pass, and with Kaepernick struggling this season with surprisingly 3 games, he has not passed the 200-yard mark, and only one game, he's thrown for over 400 yards, and that was week 1 against Green Bay. Now, Sunday, as I said, he's been struggling. It's not going to get any easier. Houston has the best passing defense in the league, and Kaepernick seems to be turning into one of those quarterbacks who locks onto a wide receiver, and if he can't get the ball to that wide receiver, he really struggles. He struggles to use the weapons around him. I mean, you saw it last year, although he succeeded with it last year with using Crabtree. Now this year, it's Bolden. But if you take a look at the targets on the team, Anquan Bolden has 36 targets. Do you know what the next closest is? 19. And it's not Vernon Davis. It's Kyle Williams. Not Frank Gore. Not Vernon. Kyle Williams. Cap, you got to use your other weapons, buddy. Nonetheless, he faces off against the best defense. He's been struggling all season. I don't see him righting the ship this week. You might want to leave him on the bench. And along with Kaepernick, other quarterbacks you want to leave on the bench is E.J. Manuel, Russell Wilson, Alex Smith, Andrew Luck, and Jay Cutler of the Chicago Bears. Now, running backs that have to be in your lineup for week number 5. One of them is Darrell Richardson, who I said to start last week against a horrid San Fran defense that had given up the most rushing touchdowns, only to be proved wrong. Thanks a lot, Daryl. How do you run for 16 yards or 17 yards on 11 carries? Please, somebody tell me the answer to that one. Nonetheless, I'm giving him another chance this week. And then, just about 2 hours ago, I found out Jeff Fisher said that he plans on using a running back by committee approach. I don't know what would make him do this. I don't know if it's been Richardson struggling or what, but I still think Richardson gets the bulk of the carries. You know, they're facing off against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's worse against the run. They could be up in that game, which means Richardson's going to get more carries as that game winds down. Also, you have to start Eddie Lacy. Lacy's returning this Sunday after missing really 2 weeks, you know, with their bye week and then another week with the concussion problem. They face Detroit on Sunday. Detroit's no great team against the run, but they're not a bad team either. Also, Wills McGahee. This guy I was high on when he first got signed by Cleveland, and he struggled the first week. Of course, he didn't know the system. He got better last week as he ran for 46 yards on 15 carries. But this week, he faces the 6th worst rush defense on Thursday Night Football tomorrow night against the Buffalo Bills. If Darren McFadden doesn't play, McFadden owners, you might want to keep a close eye. Or if you own Rashad Jennings, you want to keep a close eye. If Rashad Jennings plays, he has to be started in PPR formats, I really believe. He had 8 catches last week coming in for McFadden. I believe that Oakland's already one of those teams that loves to throw to the running back out of the backfield. Rashad Jennings is just like McFadden. He's quick. He's got great hands. He has to be started in all PPR leagues. Also, expect big games this weekend from LaShawn McCoy, Reggie Bush, and Arian Foster. Now, running backs, I'm not expecting to produce great numbers come Monday night, is DeMarco Murray, who you have to start because of the potential to break that big run. But Denver has the best rush defense, and I'm not totally sold on this because the reason I think they had the best rush defense is because the simple fact that Peyton gets the Broncos ahead. You know, you give the ball back to Peyton again, he just throws another touchdown. He puts the opposing offense in a hole, and that opposing offense becomes one-dimensional. Okay? And the teams go more towards the pass, which means they're not running for a lot of yards. They're not running the ball, period. So I think that's why Denver has the best D against the run. I don't see Murray doing anything spectacular, but he does have the potential to bust a big one. Other running backs to join Murray on the bench, or if you have to start them, don't expect big days, is D'Angelo Williams, Noshawn Moreno and his running back teammates, Bilal Powell, Giovanni Bernard, and both the Atlanta Falcon running backs of Jacquizz Rodgers and Jason Snelling. And one more is Lamar Miller from the Miami Dolphins. Now, let me just start off by saying, if you have a Denver wide receiver, you have to start him this weekend. I know Decker hasn't gotten into the end zone. I know Julius Thomas had a bad week this past week. But start them, okay? Dallas has given up the most receiving scores this season, and they rank 5th worst against the pass. And guess what? Peyton Manning is on fire, if you haven't noticed. Now, Decker, as I mentioned, he hasn't gotten his scores. He will. Julius Thomas will bounce back this weekend. Speaking of bounce backs, I like Deshaun Jackson. Expect a big bounce back weekend from Deshaun Jackson after 2 weeks straight scoring less than 10 points. Also, don't forget Justin Blackmon returns from his 4-game suspension. They play against the Rams. They like Cecil Shorts. I believe Cecil Shorts draws some attention away from Blackmon. It may be a dogfight of a game, but with Cecil Shorts getting some attention, Blackmon could be left one-on-one. If you have Blackmon, I'd say start him as a wide receiver 3. My gamble player this week, all stems. He's a rookie in Dallas, and that's Terrence Williams. Now, with Miles Austin was out in week number 4, it was Williams who really stepped up and answered the call. Yes, he had a critical fumble that possibly cost the Dallas Cowboys the game, but he had 7 catches on 8 targets for 71 yards. Now, as I said, they're probably going to be throwing the ball because they're facing the Broncos. Denver's not great against the pass. So if you own Miles Austin and Terrence Williams is available, I would stash Williams on your roster. And if you have Williams or if you have Austin, I would also keep close tabs on that, as Miles Austin did not practice today. If you do start Terrence Williams, I expect him to reward nicely, as I'm sure most of the attention is going to go to Dez Bryant with the monster season he's putting up. To wrap it all up, tight ends that I like in week number 5 is Brandon Myers against the Philadelphia Eagles. As I mentioned with Eli, he's torched the Eagles. The Eagles have given up a whopping 12.5 points on average to tight ends through 4 games. That's darn good. So, I mean, and Myers has a talent to possibly put up more than 12.5. He's a favorite red zone target, so I really like Myers' chances come Sunday. Also, Martellus Bennett of the Bears, Jermichael Finley against that Detroit Lions defense, Jason Witten, and Charles Clay of the Miami Dolphins. Your defenses are the Chiefs, the Houston Texans, the New England Patriots, and Carolina against an almost one-dimensional Cardinals offense. And that does it for week number 5. I hope I solved a lot of your problems. As always, I'm thankful for the continued support. You know, I'm here to answer any questions throughout the week up to kickoff Sunday. You know, kickoff late games, whatever. If somebody's out, you know, I wish you all the best of luck. I'll see you right back here for week number 6. See ya.